Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with sexuality and intimacy coach Wesley Toma. He grew up a very religious child where sex was highly discouraged. When he got old enough, he learned the errors of many ways, and through adversity, he came out, eventually meeting his now husband. He is a master certified life coach with over 10 years of experience coaching and advocating. His goal in life is to help folks navigate the sometimes scary world of relationships to become better partners, negotiators, and communicators. Enjoy this interview.
Before we get into your life and what you do exactly, I want to know, now that we're coming out of COVID, how did you survive the COVID period, and how did that time period change you in the way that you not only live your life, but the way you conduct business?
I think for me, a lot of it was getting comfortable with doing everything 100% virtual. It definitely affected my advertising process, because at one point, do a lot of local stuff, promotion, get people in the door and in front of you, but now because for so many years nobody wanted to be in front of you, you had to learn to do everything over the internet. But it was good because it also forced me to go a little bit more, I don't want to say global, but at least international, or nationally, I should say, to expand my borders to basically anybody who wants help.
So let me ask you this: for people that crave that, the whole idea of falling in love, having a good relationship, being good at intimacy, how is it that it takes most people so long to be good at it, that we're bad at it for a long time?
I think it has to do with the fact that we're taught at a young age how relationships should not be, or we're taught at a young age how relationships should be by being told how they're not supposed to be, and we're told that those parts they're not supposed to be is what they are actually supposed to be. So that was very roundabout. I think it's just a lot of education and a lot of misinformation growing up when we're younger. We have this idea of what a relationship should be based on media and our parents and prior generations. And I think a lot of that is, it doesn't hold true, at least not anymore. Like a relationship in my parents' era is nothing compared to a relationship in my era, which is also nothing compared to a relationship in my grandparents' era. So I think a lot of it is we're learning from the previous generation, and then with media being as big as it is, they give us a false sense of what a relationship looks like. I think a lot of that causes us to take so long to really learn through experimentation and through basically on-the-job trainings, if you will, how you're supposed to actually be in a relationship if you even learned in the first place.
So let's get a good handle in a concrete way on exactly what you do. And I'm going to take you in front of a bunch of third graders at a career day, and one of the kids looks up and says, "What do you do for a living, and how are you qualified to do that?" How would you answer them?
So in front of third graders would be a little scary because of what I do, but to go with the analogy, I would say what I am is a relationship, sexuality, and intimacy coach. What that means is I will talk to people or couples or groups of people, because sometimes relationships are more than two people. I will talk to them and I will work with them, and I will help them to become better communicators, to learn to talk to each other better, to learn to understand each other better, and to learn to be better partners to each other, so they will have a more fulfilling, lasting, and thriving relationship. And I do this specifically in the LGBTQIA plus and the kink communities. I will work with people outside those, but that is my major focus. And what qualifies me is, I myself am part of both of those communities. I've been there and I've seen what it's like. I've been through the trials and tribulations of learning what a relationship would be, and it gives. With all that, I think I've gained some sort of insight to the communities, to the world. That and there's a lot of things in the kink community that we do, like negotiation, like communication, like consent, that not the real world, but the vanilla world could really learn a lot from. And, I would like to bring that to them as well.
in your profession, you probably see a lot of mistakes and a lot of things that obviously need to be corrected. But if you could boil it down in the simplest terms, what's the most common mistake that people make in relationships or intimacy or any of those realms? What's the most common thing that people can correct?
I think the most common thing people can correct is communication. I think that is the biggest, number one thing. I always say, any relationship, the top thing you need to do is communicate. And I think a lot of people don't know how to communicate. And I'm also speaking from experience because I'm married, but when I met my husband, I didn't know how to communicate. We had to kind of learn. I had to learn to with him, and he had to learn with me how to communicate, not only with each other, but my upbringing. I didn't know how to communicate at all, so I had to learn basically from scratch. Everybody I talk to, anybody I speak with, most of the time, I'm not going to say everybody, but a good bulk, majority of the time, it has to do with some sort of communication, whether they're not talking to each other, or they're not saying the right things to each other, or they're not keeping each other updated on what they want and what they desire. And I think a lot of that has to happen. Like, I've been married 10 years. I've been with my husband for 12 years, and we still will, once a month, on average, we still sit down and say, like, okay, what may have changed? What about our relationship do we want to adjust? What do we want to work on? And what do we want to kind of see where it goes?
Yeah, that's wonderful. So let me ask this. When you were a kid, what did you dream about being when you grew up? What was your idea of what you wanted to be at this point in your life?
Oh, geez, not a coach, because I don't think when I was a kid, I don't think they existed. But I think when I was a kid, to be honest with you, I've always wanted to be an actor. I was 100% wanting to go to Hollywood, become a rich, famous movie star. A lot of that comes from, and it's honestly the same reason I eventually got into coaching, is I want to make people happy, and I want to bring people joy. And to me, at a young age, I was so influenced by film and television that I wanted to be that, and that gave me the joy that I felt like I was missing, and that gave me the happiness that I wanted to impart to other people.
So you clearly give a lot of yourself to your clients and in the realm that you work in. How do you balance that with your personal life? How do you give enough to still save enough gas in your tank for the life that you want to live and the fulfillment that you need to get out of living?
I think it's about learning to pace yourself. Like I don't want to take on so many clients that it's back to back to back for 10 hours straight, because that will kill me. But at the same time, I want to help as many people as I can. But so I think it's about finding, and I think this goes for basically any career, really. It's finding the balance, finding where your level is, where you can, how much you can give. I'm a big proponent of the spoon theory. For those who may not know what that means, it's talking about how much energy and effort you can put into things. It's like having a handful of spoons, and once your spoons are gone, you can't do anything more. They say you're out of spoons. I'm a big proponent of spoon theory, and I have to kind of, and sometimes I do it every day. I have to look back and say, okay, how many spoons do I have today, and how many can I give, before I'm out, and how many am I willing to give that I want to, so I can save some for my husband, for myself later.
I'm a Libra, so you're preaching to the choir. I get that completely. So every day you wake up, what do you look forward to? What is it that you like to see happen in your day? What do you want to accomplish? What drives you?
I think every day when I wake up, the first thing I want is to see my husband, which is cheesy as that sounds. But I think that's probably the first thing I want to do. But what drives me is making the world better. I feel that there's a lot of things about society that can be changed. I think there's a lot of things about society that are good, but I think there's a lot of things that need to be worked on. And I wake up every day hoping that I can help somebody affect that change. And if I can go, if at the end of the day I can lay in bed, go to bed and go to sleep and think I've helped one person progress at least a little bit towards affecting that change and towards making the world a better place, making humanity a better people, and making people have better understanding of relationships and such, then I'm happy. That's really my biggest driving factor. Yeah.
What about role models or heroes? Who have those been for you in your life?
Okay, again with the cheesy question, I think one of my biggest role models and heroes is my husband, and I say that because, as I had previously said before I met him, I had a very skewed opinion of what our relationship and what communication looked like because of my upbringing, and he really kind of showed me how to be a better person. He showed me how to be a more communicative and a more understanding person, and he really helped me become the person and honestly I wouldn't have been able to do what I do had it not been for him, because I would not have the tools that I have had I not learned how to use them through trial and tribulation with him. So I would say honestly my biggest hero is him.
So if you can meet anybody alive on the planet right now and spend some time with them, who would you love to meet and talk to?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'm going to go back to, I'm going to date myself here a little bit because I am an old man, I think. But the one person I've always wanted to meet my entire life, for no reason other than I just think they're fantastically awesome, is David Copperfield. I think when I was growing up in the early 90s, in the 80s and early 90s, he was on TV a lot doing magic, and it was probably the most joyful I've ever felt in my life at those points, watching television, is watching him do what he did, because he was so good and he was so engaging, and it just really, it brought my heart so much happiness. Whenever there was a new David Copperfield special on, I was right in front of the TV, pay-per-view or not, I didn't care. I was there ready for it, and I watched it, and it was some of the best experiences I've ever had in my life.
So when you look at your body of work, what's been one of the best client responses, best fan letters that you've gotten that really resonates and drives you? I
think the thing that drives me the most is just the thank yous. It's nice to get, it's definitely nice to get, like, the feedback, and it's definitely nice to hear, get the testimonials for, like, the websites and stuff. But when the client looks me in the eye and in all honesty says thank you, then I think that is my biggest driving factor ever.
So the one thing I wanted to cover early on, and I kind of want to go back
Sure.
to your childhood. How did these seeds of motivation get into you? Because obviously you're in kind of a teacher capacity. You're helping people. How did that begin for you? How did those things kind of become who you wanted to be as you are now?
So I think a lot of it started, like I said, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an actor. So being an actor meant, developing charisma, personality, learning to be comfortable in front of people. I tell people, like, as we know, public speaking is the biggest fear out there, but it's probably one of my most favorite things to do, because I'm a weirdo like that. So a lot of it started there. Then it came from the fact that I've always been the person that everybody talks to, everybody confided in, and it honestly wasn't until I think my 20s when I was hanging out with my roommate at the time, and we were just talking, and she kind of goes, you're kind of like a life coach. And I was like, what is this life coach thing? And I did some research, and I was like, oh, that is exactly what I like to do, and that is what I would love to do forever. So yeah, I think that's kind of where it came from.
So everyone out there has a perception of you. They have an idea of who they think you are, your family, your friends, your clients, but ultimately you're the one that's living your life. You lead your life. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
Wow, now I feel like I'm suddenly in therapy. For me, my perception is, and this is something that I've always been an issue, and I think most people, if not everybody, deals with it, is imposter syndrome. I never think I'm good enough. I never think I'm the right person. I always think I'm a fraud. But at the same time, I learn to accept what people say to me as truth. Whether or not I feel it, I accept it from them to be truth, and therefore I then start to feel it myself. It's kind of like, to me, I'm a big proponent of, like, faking it till you make it. So, do I have confidence in myself? Do I have a lot of self-esteem? Probably not as much as I should, but, I can pretend to, and then eventually I believe it. So, yeah.
Anybody out there that wants to know more about you, your services, anything revolving around your world, where's the best place for them to go?
The best place to go would probably be my website, which is wesleytoma.com, wesleytoma.com. You can go there. You can see it kind of has a little bit of information about who I am and what I do. You can book a free discovery call from there, and we can get going. And anyone who wants to check it out, feel free. I'd love to help you.
Wonderful. Wesley, hey, man, thank you again for being so flexible today. Thank you for opening up. This is wonderful.
Yeah.
I am always so fascinated in this community of how many people are out there doing such good things to really build everybody up to get to a better place. So thank you. I appreciate it.
And thank you for having me.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, relationships, business, spirituality, and music from around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.